Number 10, Super FNAF 2, Wonderful Day. This game honestly looks like just a lot of fun. It's been in development since 2017 and is a platformer with lots of dark, hidden secrets for you to uncover. The trailer spins it as a game created kinda by Fazbear Entertainment to promote their franchises, who teamed up with obviously the company LSF Development to actually make the game. LSF Development is the actual creator of the game on GameJolt. There is no expected release date, but the creators are hoping to have it ready soon. At least that's what their page says. I love that it appears as a legit 80s or 90s inspired platformer, but that there are also some dark secrets via perhaps glitches that will likely come up in regards to the true stories behind the restaurants and the animatronics. I also just love that it takes its name from Circus Baby's speech about her wonderful day. I see what you did there, and I like it. Number 9, Five Nights at McDonald's. This was one of, if not the FNAF game to enter development first. This was one of the first, if not the first FNAF fan game to enter development. We're not really sure how far along this game is, but we know it's been in the works for apparently 7 years. The graphics make it look like something that could be released for like Nintendo 64. But hey, Nintendo 64 is well loved by many of us, so that might not end up being a bad thing if it ever actually does get finished. All we have to look at is some very blocky designs for characters and locations. Oh, and a live trailer that is admittedly pretty creepy, but also is live action, so it's more about giving us the feel for this game than any actual idea of what the game would be like to play. Five Nights at McDonald's is being created by Vortex Softworks, and you can follow along on the journey on GameJolt. This is also just a cool one to be aware of and to follow, since it was, apparently like the first one. It's like a bit of FNAF history. FNAF fan-made history. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, be sure to show us by giving this video a thumbs up. I love talking about all the cool fan-made stuff because the community is just so cool and creative, and I love it. So yeah, if you want more fan-made content, let us know. We can celebrate it. Number 8, Fredbear's The Origin / FNAF. Fredbear's is a game that was meant to establish the lore as reimagined by fans of the first Freddy's location, Fredbear's Diner. It's implied based on teaser trailers and the description that you, in fact, may play as the killer in the series, but that at least for a time you're kind of unaware as to if you're responsible for any deaths or if something else might be going on. All in all, it sounds very creepy and mysterious and a little confusing for this story, which I am into. I mean, if I didn't want confusing, would I even be talking about FNAF right now? However, this game seems to have been in development since 2015 and doesn't offer too much in terms of giving us glimpses into what could be upcoming gameplay. Fredbear's is being developed by Copal Images, if it's still being developed. Our last little bit of intel was an opening scene still, which was shared 1 year ago on the GameJolt page for this game. Number 7, Pork Chop's Horror Show. Pork Chop's Horror Show is an unreleased FNAF fan game where players attempt to survive a horror game show, risking their lives in exchange for the chance at winning fabulous money and prizes. The overall design of this game and characters look pretty terrifying, which is why, despite it not being released yet, many fans of the FNAF franchise were still excited to see and play it. Of course, it has been in development for a long time and has even been cancelled at least once, only for the promise of it to return to us, those of us who are eagerly awaiting its release. If it is ever released, it will be a combination of point and click mechanics and free roam. Until it does, we only have the stills, preview, and promise of it to keep us going. However, it is also part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. Scott Cawthon announced on Reddit that its developer Fiznom would be bringing an original reimagining of FNAF to the FNAF verse. Although this game wasn't necessarily listed, a lot of us are like, that's gotta be Pork Chop's Horror Show. So who knows, it could still end up happening. Keep those fingers crossed, my friends. Number 6, Those Nights at Rachel's. Is this game just a better FNAF game? In my opinion, sort of. In this game, you are a security guard at Rachel's where you must try to survive through the entire night shift and prevent the animatronics from attacking you. The game was made in Unreal Engine by the popular and accomplished FNAF fan game designer extraordinaire Nick Som, who also designed another horrifying FNAF fan game you may have heard of, The Joy of Creation, and others within that series. So yeah, that's the level we're at with this. Some of the animatronics featured in those Nights at Rachel's I actually find more horrifying to gaze upon in comparison to the core animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's. The other thing I love about this game in terms of the horror elements when it comes to the game's story is that it actually takes place in the same world as FNAF, at least in the story it's mentioned. Freddy's is mentioned as being a problematic restaurant down the street whose controversies and scandals are actually negatively impacting Doug's and Rachel's business as well. Good old Doug's and Rachel's. Number 5. Five Nights at Candy's 4. Because in the world of FNAF fan games, some of these games have become so popular, they've even created their own series of games. There is just a very real demand for really good FNAF fan games. And Five Nights at Candy's was one of the breakouts when it came to being considered one of the best. Despite the fact that I ranked the first game in the series a little bit lower on this list, it's only because each game has really only improved on the creep factor here. FNAF 4 is not released yet, but appears just from the stills and the teasers on its Game Jolt page to be one of the most terrifying in that series yet. Five Nights at Candy's has also been welcomed into the FNAF extended universe by Scott Cawthon himself, joining the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. Number 4. Final Nights 3. Nightmares Awaken. I think this one deserves to be so high up just for like the game's location. It takes place at a hospital and you must try to survive and somehow sleep while also dealing with Reaper animatronics, which is about as scary as you can imagine. Also, hospitals in general are just scary. In fact, it actually might not even be scarier than you're imagining if you haven't played this game before, so you need to go play it. Something as well about the idea of sleeping while all this madness is going on just breaks my brain in a way. Like, I don't want to sleep if there are things hiding in my closet. I don't want to do that. How am I supposed to sleep knowing that these Reapers are out there wanting to probably tear me apart? And every time I wake up, I'm probably gonna get die. That's what's about to happen. I'm like, I can't sleep. Number 2. Sinister Turmoil. Sinister Turmoil was a highly anticipated FNAF fan game that ended up being cancelled. Wah wah wah. However, the good news is there is a smaller version of the game available for fans to play that was released as kind of a final farewell to the project. What's really sad too is this game actually looks so good, so terrifying, and it was only in development for about a year and change before it was abandoned. So they didn't have that much time to create something that was already looking so promising, and yet they did that. Here's hoping that we see more content like this from Angus Games and their team in the future, and that we'll get something else FNAF themed from them, hopefully. The other thing that I love about this one is that it had a more mature rating in comparison to other FNAF fan-made games. So if you were looking for something that's like a little bit more adult in terms of the violence or the content, then this is a game that was trying to do that, which I appreciate as an adult that likes these games. Number 10. The Withered. What if you could play a version of the FNAF games where all the animatronics were severely withered? Would you dare? This is a fan-made game that a few developers have been working on to make happen, and it's definitely one that I would love to play. I personally think the Withered and Nightmare animatronics are some of the most scary versions that we have in-game, so to see a whole series where everything is withered sounds pretty terrifying to me. If you love getting jump scared to the point that you can't sleep at night, this is probably a fan-made game that you also need in your life. Also, what if the Withers were more active in game? That would also be a cool idea, no? Number 9. Lego Five Nights at Freddy's 1. This is a game that is currently being developed on Game Jolt. I just love the premise and design of the characters. The idea? It's a one-for-one copy of the original game, but with Lego versions of all the animatronics. So if you love Lego and you love FNAF, this one's for you. I especially love in the trailer how Bonnie just takes off their head to reveal the endo underneath, like it's a mask. Because I mean, you can do that with Legos. So neat. Lego Five Nights at Freddy's is actually a mod for the original, I believe, or it's intended to be, which is how it works to be an exact one-for-one. So the only thing you need to do is actually own the original to play this version. And then of course wait for the mod, and then download the mod, and then put it in. So a few more things. And friends, before we move on to this next point, if you are loving this list and you want to learn more about awesome fan-made games that we are expecting or that we'd love to see, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. FNAF Origins. Something that has always fascinated me when it comes to the FNAF franchise is the figure of William Afton. He's so mysterious and there is still so much we don't know about him. Why does he kill? What motivates him? When and how did that all start? To uncover this, I would love to have a game that dives deep into William's backstory, his origins, and the lore surrounding him. It doesn't have to be so on the nose, but just a game that even hinted at the motivations for this character would be
be cool. It could also be something more abstract, where we don't play explicitly as William, but simply a character that represents him. Though really, if I gotta pick, I would prefer something a touch more literal, as we already have lots of illusions in the franchise left to unpack and decode already.
Number 7. Five Nights at Freddy's Laughter and Joy. And we'll laugh and laugh and laugh. This game looks like it has a promising premise from the description, but it will likely never see the light of day, or the darkness of night, as it's been in development since 2014. There also isn't much content on its GameJolt page to suggest that it is anywhere close to being ready, or that it has even been continually worked on since it was announced. What we do have is a plot that involves worldwide locations of Freddy's being opened up as the company goes international in an attempt to basically drum up more business. I mean, that feels like a risky move if you were struggling to do well already. Also, where would you then get all that money to open all those locations internationally? But still, it's a cool idea if you can suspend your disbelief when it comes to the actual business side of that. I mean, maybe they were just like, hey, you can open a Freddy's in your place, just like you have to invest all the money. And then I guess it's a good idea. Either way, it's still a cool idea if you can kind of suspend your disbelief when it comes to perhaps the actual business side of that. The other interesting info we are given is an idea of the animatronic roster, including a new animatronic named Jammy Jr., who I really want it to be a cannibalistic Jammy Dodger animatronic. I know that's asking a lot, and I know that we'll probably never get this game, but if that could be a thing, I would love it. Number 6, Animator's Hell. This one has a few demos available, but that's it if you're looking to play. It's by Gestalt Games and can be found on GameJolt if you're looking to check out what is available at this point. The good news is the second demo came out only a few weeks ago. The bad news is that the previous demo came out a year ago, so progress is evidently slow going, and it might mean you have to wait a while before you'll see another demo or even a semi-finished full game when it comes to Animator's Hell. Animator's Hell was tested out on Game Theory Live though, so if you are a fan of MatPat, who had nothing but good things to say it seems, you might want to hit follow on GameJolt for this one, and stay tuned for when this game is fully released. Either way, you've got a couple playable demos that you can do, and that's more than a lot of games have, so you should check that out. Seems like the demos are pretty fun. I haven't played this one, but it looks pretty fun. Number 5, Pyro Illusion. I guess a lot of these titles choose to be in all caps to, I don't know, attract your eye. I'm not really sure what's up with that, but there are a lot of FNAF titles that are like all in caps. But before Pyro Illusion was Pyro Illusion, in all caps, it was Five Nights at Roxy's. This game has over 20,000 followers, but still doesn't have much beyond preview images and trailers. Of course, all the imagery and glimpses into the world and character design thus far look so good that everyone obviously cannot wait for this game to be released, if it ever does get released. When it gets released? D. Demku has been working on the game for 4 years on GameJolt, it should be noted, so hopefully they're getting close soon because, you know, fans have been waiting for a while. Give us the game, we want to play! But also respect to people making games, because it's really hard work. So, also take your time. Give it to us, but take your time. But give it to us, you know? Number 4, Pop Goes Evergreen. Pop Goes is one of the games that is part of the FNAF Fanverse initiative, and when I say games, I should really be saying the franchise, because Pop Goes has had full games released under the title, but they're now working within the Fanverse, which means some of the previous titles will no longer be considered canon. But this game, Pop Goes Evergreen, and the prequel game, Pop Goes Arcade, will be considered canon in the FNAF Fanverse, so yay. Pop Goes' main character is an animatronic weasel, and while Evergreen is still in development, Arcade is available for you to play if you want to gear up for this exciting new title that will be canon within the FNAF fan extended universe. Exciting stuff! Their page on GameJolt also has a free soundtrack song available for download that makes for some pretty good creepy mood music. Pop Goes Evergreen is being created by Kane Carter, so thanks Kane.
Number 2, The Incident. What do we really want? What do we really want? We want a game that helps to shed some light on an evening that has haunted us for many years. Or perhaps not just one evening, but a period of time. Although it is alluded to as being a single evening as well. That is the night when the 5 victims victims of William Afton went missing. I would love a game where you are perhaps playing as one of those 5. Perhaps you even get to choose who you want to play as, and each character's story is slightly different when it comes to gameplay. You know how the night ends, you know you're doomed, but you get to participate and witness as the horrible story of that night unfolds. I also just love playing through horror games where I kinda know I'm doomed.
And at 10, many nights at Lenny's. This is the one place that you could get a job, and being in desperate need of money, you applied and got in at a local museum, which is centered around an abandoned children's pizzeria. Armed with security cameras, a piano that will scare off any robotic intruders, and other security features, you must get through 5 nights. I feel like an infomercial. We have cameras, a piano, and many more amazing security features. So be sure you come on down to Lenny's Airbnb. I'm always watching. You're welcome. Unfortunately, this game hasn't really seen the light of day, but looking at the banner and the trailer that the creator Oni made, it shows real promise. A very Five Nights at 2 feel, with a story that involves you talking to the police, running away, and really just improving on FNAF 2 in any way it could. While it may not have seen the light of day, being published over 3 years ago and not being updated for a while, it should be completed. It could also very well be completed, and I could be totally wrong, but okay. And at 8, Five Nights at Wario's. Five Nights at Wario's by Wario is obviously a somewhat laughable parody of FNAF, with the game using Mario characters like Mario, Luigi, Waluigi, Peach, and the title character of Mario. Using models from Brawl Box, they look like they did in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I guess the Waluigi one was made from scratch. The game contains a hidden story about why these characters are haunting this fast food factory, as well as Easter eggs and rare screens to be found. This whole game takes place in an alternate universe, Mushroom Kingdom, making them more modernized, I guess, since they have a fast food restaurant they're able to haunt. I guess they're also dead because, you know, you can't really haunt anything if you're alive. Unless you're me, and in that case, my presence will ultimately haunt you for days to come. This game isn't really referenced that much in the FNAF fandom from what I saw, and it's unclear why. I remember there was a spill where YouTubers were playing this game, and this is definitely an old one coming out in 2014 and getting itself some sequels. So it's fairly impressive for a game using other franchises' characters in another franchise's scenarios.
Number 7. LEGO Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I think this is one of my personal favorites when it comes to LEGO FNAF fan-made trailers we've gotten thus far. Something about how creepy it manages to be while still being LEGO versions of the animatronics, that combined with the silliness of what a LEGO phone guy would sound like, which I love by the way, it's just magical. Give me all the LEGO everything, and especially LEGO FNAF 2. Also, is it weird that I still find these LEGO models really scary in FNAF 2? Like genuinely, these models creep me out. Maybe it has to do with how many LEGOs I have lurking around my home. Definitely keeping a closer eye on them moving forward. Number 6. Fredbear's Diner Family Vacation. We've seen quite a few games that are focused on Fredbear's Diner and use the location as a backdrop for a game similar to the general formula of FNAF. But what about a game that deviates from that formula? What I would love to see is a game where instead of playing as a security guard there, we maybe get to play in the role of someone who is staying nearby. I have this vision of a family on vacation, perhaps at a campsite near Fredbear's, who goes there every day for meals throughout the week. For some reason, I've always envisioned Fredbear's as being more remote in terms of its location. I don't know if that's just me. In this game, as the family continues to visit the diner, things get more and more strange until eventually their lives seem to be at peril. Will you escape or end up as the first victims of Fredbear's Diner? Sure, this might not fit within the main continuity, but hey, it's a fan game, so it doesn't have to. Number 5. Five Nights at Circus Baby's. Haven't you always wanted to go to Circus Baby's Pizza World? I know I have. This is what this game would be all about. Circus Baby is one of my favorite characters in the games, and once again, it would be so cool to travel back in time to see her origins and also perhaps see what happened to Elizabeth. I imagine the format for this could be similar to the others, with maybe the 5th night taking place during an actual shift where the place is open in the evening for a birthday party. As a security guard, you are tasked with making sure the animatronics don't step out of line, but obviously in the end you fail. Or maybe you don't. There's the possibility for an alternate ending here where, contrary to lore, you save Elizabeth and you end up a hero. That would also be super cool. Not all horror games need to have tragic endings after all. Or at least not all ending options need to be tragic.
And at 3 is Shadow Over Freddy's. Shadow Over Freddy's is a short point-and-click exploration horror game that showcases free roam gameplay, but keeps to the tableau-esque style of the FNAF series. Fun fact, in grade 10 I took drama class, so yeah, surprise. surprising. And for the final exam presentation, we had to like pick a theme. We had multiple gamers in the group, so we picked video games, of course, and we had a segment for FNAF, where we had me photoshopped to be Golden Freddy. Like basically I just wore yellow and put ears on. And the other members of the group were other animatronics, and Owen was playing the night guard on stage. Then I snuck behind the whole class and like screamed when I popped out on screen. It was fun. Anyways, this game has you roaming around the FNAF 1 pizzeria while you have different objectives each night as you try to find a way out of this accursed restaurant. You don't have cameras, doors, or time on your side, only the requirement to complete your objective. Plus, this game is in black and white, making it even scarier when you think about it. It's really unsettling, and free roam is something that we haven't seen in other FNAF games, not even Help Wanted, so well done. Well done. And at 2, Final Nights 3, Nightmares Awaken. I've talked about the Final Nights series before on Top 10 Scariest FNAF Animatronics Part 1. The Reaper Puppet was number 10 because like, oh my god. Reaper Puppet is one of the main antagonists of this game, where you must defend yourself in a hospital room. Like, come on guys, is nowhere sacred? The main point of this game is to get to 6 AM, however time doesn't pass while you're awake. You need to sleep in your bed for time to pass. So you need to wake up, scare everyone away, and then go back to sleep for a while. Then wake back up and make sure they don't kill you in your sleep. The scariest animatronic in this game still has to be the Reaper Puppet because the way it crawls over the railing and the fact that you need to like confront it to scare it away is the worst. It's like a predatory animal. Like it will attack if it's comfortable, but if you approach it, it runs away. I'm pretty sure there's a predator that does that, right? It was meant to be the final game in the series, but this was changed with the release of Final Nights 4, Fates Entwined. So, there you go. Got another one. Another one. Finally, in at number 1, The Joy of Creation. I've been going this whole list thinking one thing. They need to make a fan game where you play as William Afton and play through the story. Hell, I'll even do it. Spend like a year figuring out how to make a game, and then I need to make it into a VR game because who doesn't want to kill kids in VR, right? Like that's why we got Skyrim. In all honesty, I wanted to see that happen, and I thought that's what this game was, but it's actually something far more interesting. The Joy of Creation is made by Nixon, the same game dev who made Those Nights at Rachel's, and is inspired by FNAF 4 as well as Boogeyman. In the game, you play as Scott Cawthon, who is now being attacked by his own creations after ending the series. The game started off with a survival mode but got a story mode added later on, and the story mode is by far the scarier of the two. The normal animatronics are replaced with ignited versions, and holy crap, they're nightmare fuel. Plus, playing the games gives you peace, since it's set in a different world, but this game literally takes it into our world, and actually sheds light on why Scott keeps making so many games in the series. Maybe this is why. They're threatening him.
Number 9, Five Nights at Flumpty's 2. I think one of the best things about Five Nights at Flumpty's overall is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. But the other thing that is really amazing about it is it's actually scary as well. It's like a parody game that will make you chuckle but will also haunt your nightmares at the same time. While the original game was more in the vein of Five Nights at Freddy's in terms of its formula, Flumpty's 2 pushes the envelope even more, resulting in a more weird and horrifying experience for players in comparison to that first game. Just look at the room you start in after all, like what is even happening here? I'm not exactly sure about everything that's going on, but I definitely know it's not good. I also just think the mechanics in the game really add to the level of paranoia you feel while playing, like the laptop restart, which you have to go through every time you fully exhaust your laptop battery while looking at the security monitors. So don't do that. Don't let your laptop die. Also, it's not good for your laptop. Real facts though. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn about more scary FNAF fan games, you know that there are so many. There are so many we could talk about. So be sure to let us know that you love it by giving this video a thumbs up.
And at 7, Five Nights at Chum Buckets. Five Nights at the Chum Bucket is the official sequel to Five Nights at the Krusty Krab. And while it may be a sequel, the story is by far darker and more haunting than the first. After the Krusty Krab was burned down, the player is the only survivor, and he gets kidnapped by a business official who wants to cover up the incident and leave no witnesses. When you wake up, you find yourself trapped inside the security room of the Chum Bucket. During the first and second night, the businessman discovers that there is another survivor who is trying to save you, so he thinks that if he lets him try, he can kill you both. You must survive 6 nights of animatronic onslaught as you wait for your survivor. You must survive 6 nights of animatronic onslaught as you wait for your savior. This game features several iconic characters like SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Sandy, and even Karen, but she's talking to the manager the whole time. They also have phantoms, and that's pretty dope. These characters, however, are all animatronic, making them under the control of the businessman and basically mass murderers. I mean, they're like the gorilla from that one episode. And at 5, Dormitabus. Dormitabus is one hell of a name change. After flames consumed you, you soon realize that you woke up in a place you can't identify. How are you alive? Didn't you just burn to death in Fazbear Fright? Your confusion, however, turns into fear when you notice you have a mission. You need to save the dead. But the dead you're trying to save aren't really friendly, and they're your old friends. The game expands on the lore of FNAFs 1 to 4, but excludes Silver Eyes and Sister Location as the game was planned before these were released. The game takes the animatronics we know, love, and our pants at, and twists them into something you would only recognize if you knew what they looked like before. They even resurrect Springtrap in the form of Garvey, who is even more wrecked than before, and I don't mean like riggedy wrecked, I mean like torn up to bits. And the most iconic thing they did are the Havoc animatronics. They're all mangled forms of other terrifying animatronics, and oh boy, they're horrible. You honestly just need to see it for yourself. You play as John Wright, a man responsible for Springtrap's mental deterioration, making him partially responsible for whatever he has done. He's also meant to be the protagonist from FNAF 3. Keep in mind that this was all before the big lore reveals of the series, so you can forgive him for that. And at 4, Sinister Turmoil, Sewers. Sinister Turmoil was intended to be a bigger game on release. However, after the game's cancellation, developer Angus WW released Sinister Turmoil Sewers, a small snippet of what the main game would have been like, with prototype Foxy, otherwise known as Mangle, being the main antagonist as you run around the sewers looking for a way through, with Mangle having a security cupcake that once it sees you it will follow you, and if it gets close enough it will begin screaming and sounding an alarm, which will identify your location. Underneath the abandoned Fredbear and Friends Funland, horrors lurk in the shadows. Mangle was released into the sewers and now you're locked down there with it. While navigating a series of tunnels you need to find a way out, as well as avoiding the monster that has only one item on his agenda: killing you. The game can take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour to complete, or more depending on how bad you are.
Number 3, The Joy of Creation. The Joy of Creation is the game that started it all for this franchise. It was inspired by Boogeyman and FNAF 4. Here you play as Scott Cawthon himself, fending off animatronics who seem to be attempting to scare and threaten you, to encourage you, I guess, to make even more animatronics or even more games. The Joy of Creation has some very disturbing designs when it comes to the animatronics, and although the game is simple, it's very well put together. The character of Scott in this game also seems to be a bit like William in the sense that he also apparently has animatronics and is warned at the beginning of the game that if he doesn't replace the mainframes on his animatronics, they're going to be like a danger to those that they perform for. So he seems to also be a builder of animatronics. This game, I believe, was only ever developed as a demo before it was abandoned, but if you love it and you find it as terrifying as I do, you can check out the finished and remastered version, The Joy of Creation Reborn. Number 2, Five Nights at Treasure Island. Five Nights at Treasure Island was possibly one of the first fan games ever made based off of the FNAF franchise, and I gotta say, it's a pretty good one. It still holds up to this day. This one blended together the mechanics of FNAF with the oh so cursed world of Disney. At least we all like to imagine the world of Disney is cursed. I don't know how cursed it is in real life. In Five Nights at Treasure Island, you face off against animatronics at Old Treasure Island, which are Disney icons including Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy, or really messed up versions of them. Another interesting and disturbing part of Treasure Island is that the animatronics, or toons in this case, are all super twisted in some way. Honestly, in retrospect, this game reminds me now of a combination of Bendy and the Ink Machine mixed with FNAF. Number 1, The Joy of Creation Story Mode. I feel like The Joy of Creation is elements of FNAF 4, but if it was like maybe even scarier. This fan game is meant to be a follow-up that goes through what happens after Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Now of course, this is a fan game, so none of this is really considered canon, but it does a great job of encapsulating the feel of the FNAF universe and the lore, which is why a lot of fans will sometimes even consider it as part of the world when reflecting on certain characters and certain stories. It just fits so well. What makes it scary? The sound design, the whole atmosphere, the creepy story, the animatronics. I mean, it's really got the whole package, which is why it's number 1.